In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at the modeled guidance. We're going to just be diving into these models and just taking a look at the upcoming storms because there is a whole lot to go over, guys, I gotta say. We do have multiple major snowstorms possible in this upcoming pattern. Very late season winter storms, that is. A little bit too little too late, but really, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you will take it either way. So we're just going to dive into this. Let's take a look at just a couple of hours from now, as we're taking a look at later this evening here on Friday, March 10th, and it says 0Z there, March 11th, which will be Saturday, but really this time system on the models is not Eastern time, or really any United States time at all for that matter. We do see that there is some moderate snowfall going on for New York, Pennsylvania, as we're going to be expecting a pretty heavy snowstorm to be affecting these areas, and this system is going to move up and be a nor'easter basically. We can also see our next system moving onshore to the west, or it pretty much already has by this point, bringing heavy snowfall from the Cascades all the way to the northern Rockies, the Sierra Nevadas into the southern Rockies, and we're really just seeing a snowy, wintry west at this point. Now, as we move on towards tomorrow during the day, we can see that this, first off, early morning, 5 a.m. or so here tomorrow on Saturday, a 994 millibar low pressure center there, nor'easter. We can see this taking place, and then we can see moderate to heavy snowfall taking place in the Northeast and New England there. Pretty exclusive there for regions like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island. Things like places like that, really, up in southern New England, northern mid-Atlantic, that kind of area. That is what we're going to be seeing. Now we see storm number 2 as well impacting still the west, mostly your northern plains down through the Rockies and still the Sierra Nevadas again. We can tell the jet stream is doing something like this, which a lot of you have been waiting for this all winter long. It never came until, again, too little, too late here. By the time we reach Saturday during the day, this is going to be the look. We have a pretty linear looking storm here. You can tell that it looks something like this, with a low pressure system here to the north and a low pressure system, stronger one here actually to the south. It kind of looks like a sideways smiley face there, but that's just the weather for you guys. 985 millibar low pressure center would have been a massive just bomb of a snowstorm up there in the Northeast, but really it's just a fish storm. That is what ended up happening with that one. Now we can see for the Southwest, we also see some showery activity persisting through the day tomorrow. And actually, as we take a look at Sunday afternoon, this is the look. We do have some precipitation around for the Southeast here. So from the deeper south areas through the Southeast and even up into the southern mid-Atlantic is what I would call it. We have rainfall and even snowfall there for portions of Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina, as we kind of have a more wintry air mass than we've seen for most of the winter there over those regions. As we just continue this on, what we see is that this does kind of evolve, and it's becoming a bit of a nor'easter. Is it 998 millibar low pressure center there over southern North Carolina there at that point. As we could see, by the time we move this on, that is going to continue to rapidly intensify down to a 986 millibar low pressure center there, already bringing heavy, moderate to heavy snowfall to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and again, southern New England kind of cashing in on this one. So we're seeing these areas really get going with some of this snowfall. Also, I want you to note the jet stream here. Look at this. Very dramatic look there on the jet stream. Plenty of cold air to work with here. So this is a solid setup for a snowstorm. And actually, I want to draw your attention back west. We even have storm number 3 developing here for North America. And that is currently, by this point, Monday afternoon, March 13th. This will be up there in kind of the western regions of Canada. So it'll actually be north of the United States, as that jet stream is ridging up very far over the west. A lot of the reasons why we saw a lot of storms further in the southwest than expected this entire winter is because there was troughs in the west the entire time. So when the jet stream's doing this, these storms are following the jet stream. They're riding along that jet stream just like this, and that's why we saw quieter conditions underneath as well for the east here, because that jet stream wasn't moving through. Now, as we can see, as we continue this on, this just becomes a monster snowstorm for the Northeast. And what we'll do actually is we'll go ahead and backtrack and just take a look at the eastern view here, because this is going to obviously be a very major situation. Potentially, we can see that this develops there and just continues to worsen. So 984 by the time we're taking a look at very late on Monday. That'll be the 13th at about, let's say, 11 p.m. here. As we continue this on, conditions much worsen here by about 8 a.m. here. This will be, yeah, about 8 a.m. on Tuesday, March 14th here. We can see New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, Long Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, southern New Hampshire, southern Vermont, areas like that in this bullseye of this storm, as we have a bomb 976 millibar low pressure center there just offshore, down to a 973, 972 as the heavy snowfall persists. That stays in the 970s right over about Boston, and then eventually moves out. And this is all the way by about Wednesday, Thursday time frame. So after it's all said and done, we'll look at the 3-day snowfall. That should give us a good idea. This definitely has potential to be a 10-inch plus snowstorm for all of these pink areas here. So we'll even call it Maine. They tend to overperform, so I would say those areas in there would probably overperform. So areas like that would be looking at 10 inches plus. And I think the bullseye, according to this model, would look something like this. So take the Catskills southward into Pennsylvania and northern New Jersey. Also take it eastward through the Berkshires and Green Mountains. Berkshires extend all the way down to Connecticut as well. And then kind of these hilly regions south of Keene, New Hampshire, through the border into Massachusetts, and then back into kind of Rhode Island and Connecticut. We're seeing the potential for 15, 20, maybe a little bit over 20 inches of snowfall. And honestly, if it did happen like this, I would say that's a pretty realistic scenario, only because we saw 36, 48, maybe even 50 plus hours of heavy snowfall for these areas. I mean, from Monday night all the way through potentially Thursday morning. That would be a long-term heavy snowfall event. So large totals in that type of a scenario wouldn't be, very easily ruled out by any means. We do see we get a strong cold front there. Would not be surprised if this would be our next severe weather event with how intense this looks. We get a pretty classic setup here. As you can see, 995 millibar low pressure center, and this cold front develops underneath. A bit of a warm front bowing up like this. This is pretty classic, guys. So what we see is a pretty high precipitation cold front underneath this entire low. So we see something like this. We can tell that the warm front is somewhere in here. Your low going to be in this area. And I would be surprised if we didn't see severe weather in all of these areas along that cold front. And especially as we reach into the deeper south, again, you're going to have warm air surging out ahead of this, and then cold air blasting behind it. This is usually what causes some of our worst severe weather and tornado outbreaks. Not to say that that's for sure going to happen, but when you see this combination, it draws some red flags. So we're going to be watching it closely, and this even reaches the southeast coast. It looks like the cold air catches up to the cold front, so there might be less opportunity for thunderstorm or severe weather activity, but wouldn't be surprised if there is some areas of thunderstorms along this cold front. And it's a pretty gradient cold front. We do see a low develop along this, but look, snowfall on the back end, rainfall on the front end. Wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those events where things switch over to snowfall for a few hours, but they're not able to accumulate because you just saw like half an inch to an inch of rainfall beforehand, so everything's soaked. But you could see heavy snowfall on the back end of that. Now, real quickly, the total precipitation through all of this, as we can see, brings heavy storms through the west. So we can see that they're not going to struggle by any means. We get a couple of these storms kind of rising up, especially later on in the model run. But I think the most that we're seeing is a lot of this, these nor'easters bowing in and then kind of doing a loop and then heading out. So this is actually, believe it or not, it seems kind of goofy, but that actually does happen. So seeing this from the models isn't entirely unheard of. And these ones that stick around because of a loop, if you think about it, storm's going to be in the area longer. Actually, to be more realistic, it actually does something like this, like a little loop right there, and then moves out. But we see this from time to time, and this definitely adds hours and hours and hours of snowfall in these types of events. So that is why we're seeing such high precipitation amounts along the eastern seaboard here. Now the total snowfall, well, that's not the total snowfall, but the total snowfall through the entire model run looks something like this. Your mountainous kind of west coast looking very snowy. Same story with the Rockies and everywhere in between. And then we see some events up here for the northern plains through the kind of upper Midwest into the Great Lakes, where we're seeing 10, 20 inches for some of these areas. And then we're going to see this northeast corridor. Probably one of the bullseyes here for snowfall is going to be in here outside of your mountainous west. And we're looking at potentially through the model run, combining all the snowstorms in the next 10 days, probably easily over 20 inches for some folks. So definitely going to be a very, very snowy 10-day period. Much more snowy than I think any 10-day period that we saw during January or February or December for that matter. So definitely a very interesting year so far, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This has just been a European model update all around. Be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day, so we're going to go over this daily and kind of just update you guys. And we'll go over the changes and everything, so it's going to be really, really fun to track this with you guys. Be sure to hit the bell icon as well for daily notifications so you never miss an upload. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.